So this talk is called MIDI Birds. I am Tony Edwards. I am a client success specialist at Bluefruit Software, but don't let that put you off. By trade, I am a JavaScript engineer. I call myself a CSS so that you have the opportunity to get in touch with me via LinkedIn and win a prize or two. All you need to do is tell me what you think CSS should mean at the end of this. I'm not going to dive too much into code today, but there is some code. If you're interested, Google me, and you'll find the code exactly where you'd expect to find it. I did have plans to write a blog post for this, but 2 months after its first outing, it's yet to come to life, so sorry. Anyway, I've got 57 more slides and 40 minutes to fit them into, so we're going to dive into it. So there's a few things I'm going to cover in this talk. We're going to have a quick overview of what I've been doing with the birds. We're going to have a brief intro to MIDI. We're going to have a couple of quick demos and hopefully some fun. Hopefully. And there is one more thing included in this talk, and that is you folks. And you're included so much that I've put it in at a code level. Here we are instantiating a new audience, and we're going to set crowd participation to level 1. And you'll find out why later. If you're interested, this is what is happening under the hood. It is a simple getter and setter using JavaScript. So why MIDI birds? So at the start of the pandemic, our tech communities disappeared overnight. And if I'm being completely honest, it left a huge hole in my calendar as well as my heart and my soul. I love coming out and meeting people like you. I like seeing the whites of your eyes when I tell you there's going to be a lot of crowd participation. Yes. At one point, I was called Mr. Meetup when I got introduced at a meeting of people from Cornwall Council and the LEP and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I guess I was. But with nothing in my calendar for most of the pandemic, I looked for another community. During the pandemic, over the 2 years of it, I probably took about a year off in total and did nothing. There was a moment in time when the most technologically advanced thing that I was doing was picking up apple tree leaves from my garden and counting them for an entire season. I did some monk-type stuff. But I needed a community, and I needed a community that I could get hold of and get into without needing to leave my house. And it was the birdsong that I could hear that brought me into it. Hands up if you've ever heard birdsong. Okay, that is surprisingly just most of you. This is the sound that is all around us, all of the time. This is me feeding a bunch of birds at 5:30 in the morning, just before bedtime. And as you can hear, it's really loud. And it is all around us, but you don't actually hear it. And that was a bird platform because they pecked the roof of that Wendy's house. And as you can see, fortune on bird feeding. But it's loud, and that makes sense. There are a lot of birds. And the reason there are a lot of birds is that we have a nice garden. We have spent years building a teeny tiny little ecosystem that is perfect from everything from bees to bats, to beetles to barracudas. Although if I'm honest, the barracudas struggle to pond. Too many weeds. But I love spending days upon end out there. And I was kicking back, I was furloughed, thank you, Mr. Accountant, living my best life, and I was looking for something to do. Now, I was getting back into technology at this time, and I was wondering, can I use my smartphone to do something that isn't just doom scrolling? And I found something, but there is a problem. We have a teeny tiny little stream at the bottom of our garden, and that interferes with the recordings that I make using BirdNET. BirdNET promises to be the easiest way to identify birds via song. You press record, and hopefully in a second you'll see a spectrogram. Anyway, pretend there was a spectrogram up there. It will come up eventually. And a spectrogram is an audio recording put into a context that computers can analyze more easily. That's all it is. It's sound displayed in a different way. You're probably used to an up and down waveform. Well, would be that if you could see it. Oh, there we go. So this is a spectrogram. So the app is very simple. You record some noise. So I would put my phone down for 10 minutes in the garden, press record, and keep an ear out for interesting things. And then dart back, press stop, and then analyze the recording, which you'll see in a second. The reason I love this is that it forces you to be mindful, even if you're not doing something exceptionally mindful. Because you're continuously having to listen out for the birds that it's recording, you have to pay attention to your environment. So you're continuously in touch with the things around you, which is pretty much most of mindfulness, to be honest. The thing I love about this app is that you can actually provide feedback. So I've learned what most of the birds around my house sound like, so I can tell the app whether it's what it needs, or what it's expecting or not, which is quite useful. Citizen science. How it works? I mean, magic, to be honest. Any technology sufficiently advanced seems like magic. I mean, they provide some sensible-looking diagrams, if you want to have a look. And essentially, their algorithm identifies the bird, and then the occurrence mask says whether it should be in that area or not. Because if we're getting parakeets in rural West Cornwall, there's something wrong gone there. But for now, that's all you need to know. It records something, it creates a spectrogram, you can put data back into the system. But for now, I think we need to test it out. So I've got a couple of examples here that we went through as part of the iterative test. So the first one. Cheep, 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 cheep. That wasn't a bird, folks. That was little old me. And I did this one as a little spike. I thought, well, I can do a half-decent impression of a bird. You may disagree, but I think I can do a half-decent impression of a bird. But it identified it as human. And I think that deserves a huge thumbs up. I don't see no thumbs, audience. Crowd participation level 1. Thank you. Our next test. Chicks with them after they fledged. So we had hundreds of rooks and things in our garden. Can you imagine what it's like being our neighbour when they arrive at 5 o'clock in the morning? Luckily, I'm most of their landlords, so haha to them. But it identified it correctly. That is a rook. Now, look, you see, you know, you're getting used to it now. Another test, and I like this next one. So this is which is a seabird, something I found that's my girlfriend. This is a recording of a very special moment for us that I'm really pleased to have a recording of. This was her first day working in Penzance as a gardener with the company that she works with. We were sat on the same spot that my gran said she saw a great white shark when she was a child. I didn't want to tell her that there aren't great white sharks in this part of the world, but hey-ho. But a lot of us will use Google smartphones, and if you do, you have a timeline, if you've got the appropriate settings. And this is another data point to fit into that timeline. It was a Ruddy Turnstone. There were some dunlins around, so thumbs up. Fantastic. Whee. Now this next one, this is a bit of a puzzle, and you're going to have to listen really careful because it's really bad recording. That is not a grey heron, folks. It says it is, but it's not. That is actually my next-door neighbour shouting at his child. It's a northerner and his chick. It's not infallible, this system. It's not perfect. It didn't say that I was a bird, but it said that Paul was a bird. So 50-50, that's not too bad. But that is a thumbs down, unfortunately. But I have left this into the data set that I'm going to be using in the second half of this talk because we have seen grey herons. So this was the same morning as the recording from earlier. And this is a seagull swooping down at a heron because he's probably trying to eat their chicks. This was one garden over from ours. So I'm going to keep it in because we do have them around. But thumbs down. You know, this is all very Roman, isn't it? So the data that we're going to use. So I took the first 400 observations of the first 25 unique birds. And the reason it's 25 is because this, which I will come on to in a bit, is a 25 key keyboard. So it's handy to have 25 bird songs. What else was there? Oh, we found some robins, we found some starlings, we had some tawny owls, we have some jackdaws, and some chaffinches. Pretty common birds, and ones that you're probably familiar with. And this is the data set that we build up. It's essentially a JSON data structure, and sorry to all the professional software engineers in the room, there is a lot of derived data in there, but you know, at least I know what derived data is, I guess. It's got to be a good thing. I think this is a good moment to remember that person. So do you remember that person that you locked eyes with? In a moment, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to get up out of your seat, go to that person, and share the answer. Okay? I'll give you a few seconds to absorb the question. What I'm after is for you to share with somebody else what your key insight or learning from the conference is so far. And if your key learning is that Tony really likes birds, that's fine. But what is your key learning? Hopefully you've got something in your head. So if everybody would like to get up, head over to that person, and feel free to not take part if you don't want to, by the way. If you haven't swapped over, now's the time to swap. Excellent. So hopefully everybody in this room has just learned something extra new about Agile. And now I don't have to feel guilty about having a talk with zero Agile in it at all, because at least you've done some. Remember that person, though. So we've seen the birds, and what is Web Midi? Well, so the reason I got into Web Midi, I did a GCSE in music, and I can't play an instrument, yet got the highest grade in the class. And the reason why is because I went into audio engineering and could remember useless facts about instruments. It's effectively it. Since then, I've become a software engineer, and I love playing with web things, front end by choice, full stack by necessity. And I couldn't get them to fight like we used to do when we had that website. I can't remember what it was called, but you used to type two things in, and whichever one had the most Google results would win a fight. Have I hallucinated that website? I may have done. Okay, well, it was simpler times. But what is MIDI? So MIDI is a technology invented in the mid-1980s and deployed into actual devices a little bit later, I think a year or two later. And it came into the web browser in the mid-2010s, around 2015, thanks to some people at Google who pushed it through. In short, it is a way to pass around a 3-item array. And that 3-item array contains 3 things: state, key, and velocity. So is it on or off? Which key has been pressed? And how hard is it pressed? And with that array, you can communicate between a whole load of vaguely musical things. It doesn't necessarily have to be an instrument. It could be a lighting setup or pretty much anything you would expect to see in a theatre. I imagine the music for games is probably made using MIDI technology. And to use it, I have this little controller. So when I hit this key on the left-hand side of the keyboard, that will give it'll be 145, 48, and 127 if I hit it hard. So 145 is on for this keyboard, 48 is the key, and 127 is an assumption that I'm going to smash the keyboard. It's super simple. So what is Web Midi? Well, it's, to be honest, all of that, but on the web. That's it. Like, that is it. You need to be running it in a secure context because you're taking input from the user. And the easiest way to do that is just to fire up a little server on your device. How compatible is it? This is a web dev talk, so I mean, it needs to have a compatibility chart. It works in Chrome and Chrome-based browsers, basically. But that doesn't matter because this is a personal project. Out of interest, how many of us here use Chrome? Okay, that's the highest percentage for any room I've done so far. That's interesting. Typical navigator behavior. You check availability, you instantiate an object, you pass in some success and some failure handlers, and then you set listeners. And for this talk, all I've done is set listeners on key press, and this is a very simplified version of the code. And here we're just checking that one of the actual keys has been pressed, and that is on or off. So what do we do when it's on? Well, we play some music. When it's off, we stop the music. Or something else. Like I say, I'm not going to dive too much into the code. That's probably as complex as the code is going to get. But if you're interested, this is 100% HTML, CSS, JavaScript. There is 0 build system, and it is a progressive application in the sense that it progresses to work when you have JavaScript and everything that you need switched on. Without that, it's just not going to work. Now, right now, you're probably wondering where the intersection between birds and MIDI is. And it's a sensible question. I will admit there's not a lot in that little intersection. In fact, it's just this talk. I've yet to find anything else that sits in that intersection. Doesn't mean there isn't, and if you do know of anything, please do let me know. So, I think we need to demo something, right? So for the first thing I wanted to build was, I wanted a low bar of achievement. And I also wanted to blag as many hours towards this as I could on the job, which, given I work in sales, is not actually the easiest thing to convince your boss to let you spend 2 weeks writing JavaScript. But to help with the blagging, I spread the work over a few sprints. I said there was no Agile, there is. I spread the work into a few sprints, and each of those sprints had a learning goal, because decision makers love learning goals, don't they? So for this one, it was pretty simple. Get something, anything, working. There was actually more at the time, but this is the important thing. And I pondered what I could build, and I thought, well, I came to an obvious conclusion. I thought, something that will make things appear and then go away again. And if you're a front-end engineer or you work with some, that's just your job description or the head job description. That's what front-end engineers do. So I threw together a simple page that shows a picture and plays a bird song when you press a key. But what about you folks? Now you'll remember we set audience participation to level 1. We're about to crank it up to level 3. I will need some volunteers, so start building up the courage. I know a few of you in the room, so I know who I'm going to volunteer. But it'd be nice to get some of your own people to come up. But I do have something to bribe you. An amazing Blue Fruit software mug which has been going down very well at the conference so far. And that is one of only 3 left of that limited edition design, you'll be pleased to know. So I'm going to need a volunteer. And the 2 teams made from the audience are going to be the other 2 there, which makes 3. By the way, you're a team, and you're going to be a team, just to let you know. We've got our prize. So I think I should probably just switch straight to demo, to be honest. Give me 2 seconds. Build up the courage if you're a volunteer. You know it already works now. That spoiled the whole thing. Because we're going to take user input and do something in the DOM, we need to interact with the DOM first, so I put my job description up there. And now I will need a volunteer. Is anybody going to put their hand up and come forward? Come on up, Phil. So, yeah, a round of applause, definitely. No, come down. I've saved you the thing. So, each one of these keys is mapped to a different bird. Would you like to press and hold one of them just to confirm? RSPB. I've made a donation of £10 for every audio sample that I recorded, thinking that if they try and sue me for it, that should be enough to convince a judge that I'm not an evil person. Phil, thank you very much for your help. Round of applause for Phil, and there is your mug. But it works. And we're back. So I introduce you to a new part of the cast. This is Leo. This is our garden cat, because we have 1 indoor cat, 1 garden cat. Leo is in charge of hunting rabbits and rats. And does anybody watch The Repair Shop on BBC? There's a guy on there that fixes guitars and stuff. That's his cat. And he's trained it very poorly, but we've worked on it. Release notes. We've built a demo. We've finished our sprint. I can't remember what Toby said at the end of the sprint was in the quiz last night, but we are there. So I put some release notes together. So we got something shown on screen when a key was pressed. We got some audio playing, which matched the bird. I managed to get some of you participating too. So I think if you agree, you need to give yourselves a round of applause. That is the weirdest looking cat ever, isn't it? Now, do you remember that person? So this time, I'm going to ask you to get up out of your seat, and I would like you to share the name of a couple birds that you know. So we've had 6 or 7 come through this one. Suitable answers are Big Bird and Tweety Pie, but if you can come up with actual birds, it may help you in the next demo. So we're going to crowdsource some bird knowledge. So if I could ask everybody to get up, head over to that person, and share the names of a few birds.
Wait until you've got a successor that is actually resigned. Yeah. Very big news. I won't interrupt your thought.
So I'm coming around for some bird names. What have we got?
Harris hawk.
A Harris hawk.
Chuff.
Chuff, yeah, a very Cornish bird. Anything you want to volunteer?
A hoopie.
A hoopie. That's a good one. I've never had that one before. I'll come over here. Did you come up with?
So we had the chuff and a pied wagtail.
A pied wagtail and a black cat. Nice. None of those are in there. What birds have you got?
Sparrow, finch.
A sparrow and a finch. I like that. And one last one.
Gannet.
A gannet. That's exactly what my gran used to call me. Did we get a
Chuff.
We did, yeah, but you can never have too many chuffs. They are endangered after all. So, now that you have shared some bird names, you're kind of prepared for the next demo. I thought I should probably build something proper, not just a page. And I want you to remember I'm trying to blag this as work. So I came up with some more learning goals. I wanted to get richer interaction from the audience. I wanted to get some RGB lights working, because all of these pads up at the top, they are RGB, and I'm a geek, so I like RGB things. I wanted to put it into an OOP structure because it was just one long procedural file, essentially. And I wanted to build something cool to demo at Agile on the beach. I should have put quotes around cool there, to be honest. I pondered these, I sat down in my garden, and I was thinking, what can I do to fulfill these goals? I thought about it, and I came to the obvious conclusion. Build family fortunes. Please tell me there are some people in this room who know what family fortunes is. Oh, good, good. I did this in a room of 30 people, and one person had heard of this. Oh, dear. If you've not heard against it, it's essentially two teams being pitted against each other, ultimately to guess the top N answers to a question. Today, we're going to be using sightings, as you probably assumed, and this is a game show. So we need two teams and their captains. So this is going to be team... It's hard doing it back to front. This is team 1, and this is team 2. Yeah, that's right. Team 1, team 2. So team 1, you need a captain, and you are going to need a team name. Team 2, you're going to need a captain. Phil, not you, I'm afraid, and somebody else. To bribe you for this one, we've got another 2 mugs. I feel like there should be an ooh or something at that point. Crowd participation level 3, folks. We're going to go through the top 5 answers to the question. The team to answer the opening question starts the game, and the high score at the end of the game wins. And teams, help your captains. Shout out your suggestions. Now, in the last one, we had crowd participation set to level 3. This time, we're going to turn it up to 7. And the reason it's 7 is because that's when team games come in. And who doesn't love some team-based fun, right? So, team 1, team 2, who's going to volunteer to be the captain on this side? Come on up. And team 2, who's going to be your captain? Got someone up at the back, come on up. Round of applause for our captains. So if you come down here, so I need team 2 on this side. And team 1 on this side. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you a question. You need to press that one, team 2. You need to press this one, team 1, to put your, to be the first to hit it. Don't hit it too hard, though, because, it got bad last time. Don't hit it too hard. So let's switch to the demo. You can take your fingers, off the thing right now. It's going to be a second. It's going to be a second. But I like your enthusiasm. So we need demo 1, and look at this amazing interface, folks. We need some teams. How many in the audience? We'll say 20. Team 1, what would you like your team name to be? Team 1, that is not as original as you think. Team 2, what would you like your name to be? Choughing. I assumed you mean chuff as in the bird. Yeah, cool. You're on point. You're on point, my friend. So, Let's reveal our game board. Look at this. Ooh. All right, let me just get your question up a second. So, fingers on the buzzers, folks. When asked to self-identify, what were the top 5 birds heard in and around my garden? Team 1, what do you say? No, you're supposed to know the answer. For this first bit, it's this for you. But the answer has been in the slide deck. A rook. No, I'm sorry, it's not. You got a chance to steal. House sparrow, that is our number 1 answer. Look at that. Well done. So the game is with team 2. So we've got 4 other answers that we're looking for. Your team can help you as much as you want, but if you get it wrong, it passes over to the other team. They're quite common birds, to be fair. Robin's second answer. Well done. What are we going for third? I've heard one of the answers. Starling. Oh, I'm sorry. So it goes over to team 1. We're looking for 3 more answers. Blackbirds? You going with that? I'm afraid. Back over to team 2. Wren, no. But my hamster is called Wren, so it was nearby. Pigeon, I will give you that one, because that is, yeah, effectively. It's a collared dove. Well done. So you keep the board. Next answer. So the next one, let's give you some hints. The next one is quite often mistaken for a house sparrow. And the other one is quite often found at the seaside. Seagull. That's it. One more. So 40, I mean, you can't win from that point, but you can get some points. We've got one more. Shout out some bird names, team. Come on. Is a blackbird often mistaken for a house sparrow? Thank you. I let the team go over you there. Well done. So, team Chuffing Goods got 113. Team 1, you came back in the end with 85. That is brilliant. Thank you very much for coming up. There is your cup, and there is your cup. And a round of applause for your captains. So were these cat videos a good idea? I put them in there so that it just gave me a second to breathe, to be honest. We can just watch this. This is like a 4-minute video. Anyway, so here's our release notes. So we've created a Family Fortunes game class. Which means we've got an OOP-based structure. We've extracted a base class out of that. We've built a very rudimentary interface, and it's rudimentary because UI is overhead, if you ask me. You can tell I'm not even doing the UI side of it. And we incorporated some gamepads, and we made them pretty of RGB. I forgot to show you, but you can still see there are 2 red lights on there. And those are the buttons that I hit if you're wrong. See? I think that's quite good. I think I fulfilled my goals. We got you involved. You did some more. Yeah, I'll take the thumbs up for that. That's good. Yeah. Well done. I was on a roll by this point, so I thought I should probably build something else. So one final set of learning goals to go over today. Get everyone in the audience involved this time, because, I mean, there were a few people carrying the different teams at that point. We are going to automate some host functionality. So although we just played an updated version of it, originally I had to press so many buttons to make that last game work. It was unbelievable. So I wanted to get rid of some of that. Extract some common code out into our base class and into our player class. Because teams and players, they all have points, they all have goes, they all have rounds. It seemed a good thing to pull out. And build something even cooler to build Agile on the beach. So I sketched these out in my notebook. I brainstormed a bit and I asked myself, what could I do to fulfill these goals? And I came to the natural conclusion. Play your cards right. Sounds like a few of you are familiar with Play Your Cards Right. Who's heard of it? Oh, good, thank Lord. Because even fewer people knew this than the last one. The rules are very simple. We're going to show a game board in a minute, and this is a game for two teams and their captains again. So somebody new, pluck up the courage. This time we haven't got mugs, but we do have something to go in them. This is our custom blend of coffee made here in Cornwall. Obviously not grown in Cornwall. It's not great for growing coffee. And in this game, you're going to move from left to right across the game board. And you need to decide as a team whether you think the next amount of sightings is higher or lower. The first team to go will be chosen via a question again. And first to complete the game board wins. Although I found out last time I did this, the scoring system is messed up, and I've only just remembered. But most importantly, we've got teams. Help your captains. You're going to be shouting out as teams, higher or lower. It's very, very simple at the appropriate moment. So let's have a quick practice. We're going to get team 1 to shout higher, followed by team 2 to shout lower. So, team 1. Higher. Team 2. Lower. Look at that. Now, I think that you are going to hit the 7 this time, but there are no sound effects in this game. So I put in a participation multiplier because you all need to work a little bit harder to make up for the sound effects. We're going to multiply by 4, but I think I may have forgotten what multiplication is when I wrote the function to do this. I don't know what number that's going to come out at. I genuinely don't. But we'll see when we run the demo. This is Dexter in our new plant bed, new plant table. He was hunting a cabbage white at the time. Look at that. Smooth. So, who's going to be the captain for this one? So the captain has ultimate power as to whether you decide higher or lower, but we do need one for each team. So, on this side, look at that volunteer straight up. Look. So a round of applause. And for team 2, who's going to be our captain for this one? Come on up, my friend. Round of applause again. Well, one of you's got a cup, one of you's got coffee. This is a match made in heaven, right? So we're going to pick which team goes first here. And we're going to touch on herring gulls, okay? So herring gulls joined the Bird Conservation Concern List in 2015. But by what percentage did the population decline in the 20 years prior to that? Team 1, we need a percentage. So a number between 0 and 100. 50. Okay. Higher or lower, team 2? Lower. Oh, it's 49.6. Well done, well done. That means you open the game. So your first bird is a great tip. You can press any key on the keyboard to choose your next bird. Would you like to do that? One long, confident press. A goldfinch. So, team 2, do you think there are more goldfinch sightings or less goldfinch sightings than great tits? Come on, lower, higher. We practiced this, folks. Lower.
Yeah, I was going to say.
11. Well done. So select your next bird. That is a loon in more ways than one. Do you think there were a higher or a lower amount of loons than there were goldfinches? Lower? Yeah? Lower. Oh, that was a good guess. Choose another one. Blue tit. Higher. You seem very confident about that one. 21, and this could be your final bird on team one. You may not actually get to play. Oh, we've already had that one. Choose another. Lower, lower. 1. So well done. That was the easiest prize you are ever going to win in your life. And there's some coffee for you. Thank you very much to both of you. Round of applause for your captains. I can see Mike glancing at his watch. It means that we're getting close to the end. You'll be pleased to know there's not a lot more. So, welcome back. So, our release notes, we created a thing to show everything at once. Created a play your cards right. Oh, I mean, I'm not going to read it. There's up there. You can read it. But we did fulfill our learning goals in the end, just without the sound effects. But I think that's it, to be honest. It was just those 2 demos. There was nothing more. Our time is at an end. All that is left to say is that you folks were awesome, that we can set you to null so that we can allow the browser to garbage collect. And much like Dexter, this talk is now in the Bluefruit archive box. I've been Tony Edwards. You have been awesome. Thank you very much.